What's up? This is Rebel Radio.
What up? What up? This is DJ Newmark.
This is Peanut Butter Wolf.
It's your boy. It's okay.
Keep checking out Rebel Radio.
Rebel Radio.
This is Rebel Radio.
We're in the place right here. Rebel Radio is going down.
Would you say Rebel Radio?
Oh, wait. Let's do it again.
Rebel Radio.
What's up, Rebels? Welcome back to Rebel Radio, the weekly show where I bring you the rebels who are shaping our culture. I'm your host, Josh Levine. This week we are heading across to Europe. My guests are Meindert Kennis and Jan-Willem van Den, the co-directors of the Amsterdam Dance Event. ADE is the largest global gathering of the electronic music community. I went over in 2019. You can check out my interview with Junior Sanchez, which I recorded on site there. And this is a massive event. It's over 1,000 events with over 600,000 attendees total across, I think, 4 or 5 days coming up in October. So right around the time we're launching. And, you know, we talk about their vision for what ADE means in the global dance community. We talk a lot about their partnership and how they make things work together and kind of how they've evolved this brand that's now over 25 years old into something that can kind of be the barometer of the future of dance music. So it's a great interview. Let's get into it right now. Yeah, well, I'm excited to talk to you guys. I appreciate you making time and excited to hear about what's happening with ADE. If you don't mind, I want to start a little bit about you guys personally and kind of your journey to this point.
Sure.
And you know, I'm always interested in how we got to where we are now. So I'll ask you both the same question. Do you remember the first record that you ever bought for yourselves?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, what was actually, if I can start, that was the Joshua Tree from U2. It was the first CD I bought.
Nice.
I think I was 10 years old, so I saved up all my money to to buy that. And yeah, of course, that's the one you always remember. Yeah.
What a great record to start your journey with.
Yeah.
That's an incredible one. How about you, Jan?
I made I don't know even the name anymore, but if you record a CD, so you copy it, right? So I'm from the age of copying CDs instead of buying them. But the first copy I had was 36 Chambers from Already Bastard.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, so
that's a way cooler answer.
I don't know. Those are both classic records that we should all have in our collection.
An illegal copy from Wu-Tang is quite ghetto, right?
Nice. And then how about electronic music? What was your introductions to electronic music? Your first rave or your first DJ set that you remember?
For me, it was because I was born in 1977. So for me, it was from Miami Vice with the Crockett theme.
Okay.
Thing. I recorded that on a tape, on a cassette, and I listened to that over and over. And I got kind of addicted to the synth pads that was using in it. And so that was, and then afterwards I started listening to Pink Floyd a lot. And then I think it was the early 90s when the Belgian new beat stuff came along. And people asked me mixtapes of that, and then it was all the club thing and the rave thing was going on, and then afterwards was drum and bass.
Sure.
Years of jungle and drum and bass, and then onward.
Sure.
I have an older brother, and he was able to go to clubs and which I wasn't obviously not old enough for, but so he introduced me to the music without being in a club. But I remember listening to Laurent Garnier, the Big Baboo, at some point, and it was really an awkward setting because I was at home listening to this kind of music, which you should listen in a club, and I was like, wow, this is just so off from everything I've heard before. So I really enjoyed that moment. Yeah, I still know it.
That's cool. Yeah, it's so interesting. Dance music has now become this global phenomenon. You know, I'm a little bit older than you guys, and I started my career at a dance music magazine here in Los Angeles, and you couldn't find anybody, even around Los Angeles who even knew what dance music was, right? A DJ was something you saw at a bar mitzvah or a wedding or, high school dance, and now how far the culture's come, I think is so amazing that it's really in every corner of the world, and it's influenced pop music and country, and I know you guys have Diplo coming up this year, who's taking it across yes. Genre borders and geographic borders and cultures and all of that stuff. It's pretty amazing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
No,
please.
Go ahead.
Well, so I know you guys are fairly new to ADE last couple of years, but as I understand it, it's was it 1996 that it launched?
Yes.
And so, I'm a little curious how, from your perspective, how the how an organization like this rides the ups and downs, right? And certainly, dance music has had explosions of popularity and then dips. In the U.S. and elsewhere, we've had big legal challenges to rave culture, and the music is affected by that. And it's definitely not a straight line on a chart of increasing success every year, right? And so I'm kind of curious, how do you guys handle that, or how have you seen ADE handle that even before you joined? The sort of ebb and flow of a culture.
Yeah, it's it's funny that you say that, because in the Netherlands, I think from when ADE started, even before that, like the early 90s, it kind of has been an upgoing trend since then.
That's fair.
I think from when it started, like I said, in the early 90s with the rocks here in Amsterdam and the new beat craze in Belgium, and to the rave culture. Of course, we had Gabber in mid 90s, the really hard stuff, and then through drum and bass and progressive house, it always has been like it created this base layer of popularity for dance music, which enabled it to become a mainstream sound, like from the late 90s already. And we were used to listening to dance music on mainstream radio since the early 90s, of course, with the rise of people like Chesto and Armin van Buuren and Carl Cox and those kind of artists. So before I was at ADE, I worked at Spinning Records, and we kind of, when I worked there, we kind of had a head start, because it was already super popular, and it was kind of normal that you would listen to non-vocal commercial dance music on the radio, which kind of laid a layer of success to build upon. So, and of course, we weren't part of. Well, actually, Jan was part of ADE before 2019, but I guess the whole Dutch industry here in Amsterdam always rode this wave of continuous, I don't want to say super success, but at least this layer of a foundation of popular music that you could utilize for building an industry.
Yeah, and from a event perspective, it has been tough, especially in the first years of ADE. Starting as a fair trade fair where Dutch music was being sold to Dutch copyright was being sold to foreign buyers of music, and at some point, all these managers and all these artists were at ADE, so they started organizing a small showcase festival in the beginning of these years. Not every club was happy to join, right? So it started with just 2 clubs, and there was a lot of convincing needed to get them over.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the way, so I started in 2009 at ADE as an intern, and then we were already on riding the wave, right? So when I came in, we had about 30 or 35 event locations, participating in the ADE festival, the Showcase Festival, for 2 or 3 days. And nowadays we're on, 150 locations, 600 events for the festival, and still a lot of others for conference and arts and culture program, which is a cross-cultural program. If we are going to sell out every venue this year or every event, I think it's about 600,000 people coming over, but it hasn't been easy in the beginning. But at some point, you catch that wave, and from there on, the industry, the dance industry, the electronic music industry became more mainstream. That's what managers was just saying, and we captured that momentum, and we facilitated a red arch around the third week of October for everybody in this industry and for all its fans all over the world. Mm-hmm. And with the popularity of the music, the event grew with it. So yeah, and we nurtured that momentum, and yeah, that's where we are right now.
That's great. How much, as you said, it started out really as a way to promote Dutch music, right? So how much do you think about sort of that balance between the Dutch music industry versus, now the global community that you serve, and how much attention is to making sure that you're also still promoting the local industry?
We're facilitating this infrastructure. So we're facilitating the conference. We're giving an international podium to local talent, and being it in Amsterdam, being in Holland, that means a lot of artists on our lineup. I believe we have about 2,500 artists this year. A lot of them are from Holland, obviously, because it's in Holland, so the infrastructure is there. So yeah, that's within the fact organizing it in Holland, right? So mm-hmm. That's yeah, we're still keen on promoting Dutch talent, but it's not only Dutch talent, right? So it's an international platform, and we do want to facilitate the whole industry and bring together everybody from this industry. So it's a balance, and we got a programming team for instance, for the conference. We got a big programming team, and they always have this as a decision in their mind. So to keep the balance right.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that team a little bit. I think I heard you on another interview. You said you're around 60 people. How important is it to hire people from the dance music community, and how do you balance that with looking for outside perspectives and knowledge that that people can bring to the community?
Yeah, so we have a core team of 6 people only, okay. So the whole year round, okay. And then we hire more people along the way during the year. So it ends up 60 where we are right now. Mm-hmm. And of course we try to hire as much as a diverse crowd as possible, because as a facilitating foundation, because we're not a company, we're a non-profit foundation, we facilitate this momentum for the industry and for all the artists and basically for the whole scene. To facilitate that, you need to have knowledgeable people from all sorts in all parts of the electronic music scene. So that's what we try to do. We try to not only for the programming, for the conferences, but also the festival manager needs to be knowledgeable, and everybody assisting to that. Yeah, of course we try to maintain as much, how do you say, voelsprieten, as much of knowledge from the scene within the organization. And obviously it's 100% because there's so much going on But we try to cover that as much as possible.
Yeah, and we had to, due to COVID, we had 2 years to fine tune the team, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that for a minute, right? So, as you said, you had this break that maybe was not planned, and I'm sure you used the time as wisely as you could.
I didn't feel like a break. I can tell you.
No, I'm sure it didn't. But so now coming back live this year, what are the big changes or innovations or things that you were sort of like were able to make good use of the time off, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, the biggest takeaway from COVID is that having night culture is not, it was always kind of a given to a lot of people. It was always there, and people was always saying, yeah, of course you can go out at night, and of course you can be young, and of course you can mingle, and of course you can connect with people. But that's, people learned the hard way that if you take that away, you're going to take a lot of people's progression and a lot of people, how they express themselves. And sorry, what?
The well-being of people.
Their well-being away, and you see that a lot in surveys that are being done about young people who are struggling with their mental health because they can't go out, because they can't do what we were able to do when we were 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. Sure. And that's not only our takeaway, because we already kind of knew it, but especially from people outside of the scene, everybody kind of realizes that what we do is not just some hedonistic wave your hands in the air and then go to bed late at night. It's something which really has proper value to your expression and to your development as a human being. So we're unfortunately it took a pandemic, but kind of a thing that we take away and a lot of people take away from it is that it's really important, and so that's for us the main takeaway. And I guess from a strategic perspective, we kind of made a strategy when we started at the end of 2019. After 2 years of COVID, this strategy still stands. So that's also for us to realize that it's still a good strategy. And maybe Jan, maybe you can tell a little bit about the changes there.
Yeah. So we basically brought down all of our conferences until 2, and it's ADE Lab, which is our entry-level conference for ambitious creators and young professionals who are making their first steps in their music career. And we got ADE Pro, which is our pro conference. The idea behind it is that people who start in this music industry are they want to gain knowledge and see master classes, do workshops, and for us it means if they make their first successful steps, later on they will convert to pro visitors. Second one is to create a cross-cultural program, in that program next to all these events, all these parties, where let's say night culture is being celebrated without the dancing and the partying, but it's more about audiovisual installations and mental health, and it's more let's say the culture around electronic music instead of listening with your ears to a beat. Sure. So these are the 4 pillars we created. So that's on B2C side, it's festival, arts and culture, and B2B is lab and pro. And it makes it more tangible to understand, because we got all, as being a platform festival and conference throughout the whole city, we used to be like this black and yellow monster entering the city, and you see it everywhere, and it's kind of, you can't really touch it or understand it, and we try to make it more understandable and create several pillars, so you will know where every event, single individual event what you're up to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I've been to, hundreds of conferences and festivals. I've produced hundreds of events myself, my company. I feel like every time you're at a conference, every time I'm at a conference, I run into people that are like, oh, we could do this better. Or, it's easy to pick out the flaws. And obviously behind the scenes, there's so much that goes into getting things right that there's always going to be room for improvement. I'm curious, are there events that you guys attend or have seen that have inspired you to maybe think differently about ADE?
Yes, of course. I mean, you take away something from every event that you go to, and every event has special details or special angles that you want to discover. And talking with electronic music, it also depends on the backdrop. You have, in Miami, you have the Miami backdrop, the same as in Ibiza. It's the same. In Amsterdam, you have like the rainy, shitty weather as a backdrop.
And the canals.
Yeah.
And the canals, but
it is a beautiful city.
Yes, but it enables something different for every conference.
For certain.
Yes. Yeah. In Miami, you're at the pool parties. In Ibiza, you're also at the pool, but it's you're in Ibiza, and in Amsterdam, because the weather is most of the time not so good. You do a lot of business, so it's a lot of business orientated event. Yeah. And so everything makes an event special. And I think with ADE, what makes ADE so special is that you have all this industry who's doing really hard-hitting industry stuff, which means there's a lot of industry coming, which means there's a lot of artists performing, and when there's more artists performing, there's more industry coming. So you have like this symbiosis.
Sure.
There's more fans
for ADE. Sorry?
Yeah.
And I said, and eventually that brings out more fans, right?
Yeah.
So with
Absolutely.
these parts coming, people will go to the events.
Sure.
And of course, we go to South by, and then we learn a lot from that to see how that's going every year. And you try to kind of cherry pick on different experiences and see if you can add that to your own experience, while at the same time stay at the core of what makes your experience so special.
Sure. Yeah, one of the things I've noticed, I've worked a lot with South by over the years. They keep a really tight control on the events and the venues around Austin, and it's we tried to do some events around them, and they make it really hard to do. And then in Miami, it's quite the opposite, right? There's I run into people all the time that didn't go to the conference, didn't buy a pass, they're throwing parties, and it's a much looser sort of organization. I wonder how you guys think about that in terms of control versus community.
Well, so being a platform festival, your community and your stakeholders are key, right? So if we organize it all by ourselves and put a gate in there, and you lose it at some point. So sure. It has to be like a balance between these two opposites. Yeah. The approach we have is that we work together with the municipality, and basically every event in Amsterdam during that week that wants to organize an electronic music event in that week has to be an ADE approved event. Mm-hmm. And of course there are places where you don't need any permits from the municipality, so you can do what you want, but in the end the output is that basically every event in Amsterdam is an ADE official event, without pushing them and having this hawk approach. You need to be ADE, but right. We try to use our soft skills to and to convince people that with every single promoter and every has his own engine and his own community starting to organize these events, and together we built this huge international platform, and we bring it up a level higher. And if you can enable them to become better and bigger, and you can use your own marketing power to give them wings. It's a win-win.
Yeah. It's a typical Dutch approach.
Typical Dutch approach.
Yeah, it's typically to find to find common ground and to see how you can prosper together. I think it's really at the kind of at the core of how Dutch people do business. At least, not all of them, of course, but
yeah, no, that's great, and that's probably we should all probably learn from that. I think America tends to be very competitive, which is maybe has different advantages, but also some disadvantages.
Everything, has its advantages and disadvantages. That's true.
Yeah, of course.
It also depends on how things are being organized by a municipality,
sure.
or so it's and this has grown over the years. I used to be the festival manager of ADE. I started in 2009, and from somewhere 2011 or 12 onwards, I was a festival manager. And at the beginning, we didn't have this collaboration with the municipality, so we were just organizing, and they were all getting like this individual permit questions. And at some point, we sat together and we were like, okay, we should create a process together, because we want you to be our conversation partner, and you will have your own stakeholders. And that grew, and now we got this project group together with the city council, with a lot of people in it, and everybody has his own responsibility in this process, and it works really well. I think it's one of the best showcases, working together with the city council. Yeah,
nice. I mean, that's a great insight, and I think about this brand that's now over 20 years old, 25 years old, and as we talked about earlier, it's very different from where it started, as it should be. Are there other kind of moments that stand out as really pivotal, where the brand changed or grew, or sort of important lessons? I'm sure there are too many to tell, but some of the key ones that stand out along the way.
Well, I think
you first.
Okay, well, I think that the one of the most unique aspects of ADE is that we leave all the creative input, the musical input and the lineup input and artist input to the scene, so to speak. It's kind of a weird thing, but to actually to the venues and to the promoters, and that's what makes ADE relevant, every year. Because if it would be us, and again, we're a foundation, not a company, so that makes us super neutral, and it makes us an umbrella brand,
sure,
which engages all these venues and all the promoters to do what they do best, and that is to utilize their network and their platform to do what they do best, and grow artists and grow genres and grow hypes, etc. at ADE. And I think that's one of the key success things of ADE, and that's what keeps ADE relevant to, again, every year a new crowd and a new younger crowd that discovers the latest trends and the latest genres and the latest hypes at ADE. Because if we would have the best team in the world who would be on top of everything this year, they would miss out in it 4 years, and then we would become obsolete at some point. So that's one of the driving factors, I believe, at least, to that keeps ADE relevant and successful.
That's great.
Yeah. It's hard to top this one, but what I think is what has been crucial in growing our brand is also, let's say, the design. So at some point we stick to the black and yellow. We created the cube, and we did it consistently and without a lot of distraction, and that became a really popular brand and an ID, right? So IP, sorry, yeah. So
Sure.
that's
And if you talk about one moment in time, because from probably a US perspective, once the ADE craze began in 2014, and I was lucky enough to be at the first row, working at Records and working with Martin Garrix and Oliver Heldens and that stuff. But the funny thing is, over here, it was already big, and it just grew bigger, and so there was not really, of course, everything went more well-known worldwide, but as ADE, as the platform, it kind of always grew steadily to where we are right now. So
sure,
there's really a few super pivotal points to that you can point out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of your background, it's been in and coming from a for-profit company into a nonprofit. How does that change your approach to brand strategy? And obviously nonprofits still need to make money; they need to generate revenue. But as you're pointing out, there's a very different perspective on all of that.
Well, there's, like you said, there's pros and cons to everything. Of course, if you're a for-profit company, maybe you're always more, you want to perform more, and you want to beat the competition, and that enables you to grow. If you work for a nonprofit, it's not about beating the competition. It's about well, that sounds a little bit weird, but like kind of more of a providing organization, and that also gives you. It both has its pros and cons. I mean, the one is the commercial is nice because you really can go and you have this competitive thing, and if you are a nonprofit, it gives you a really a good feeling to be able to organize this for everyone and to see that everybody prospers from it. So yeah, it's two completely different worlds, but they are both really nice in their own way.
Has there been one thing that's been kind of hardest to adjust to?
Yes, of course. It's the rules around it. If you're more on commercial, you can just do anything you want. Basically, it's just the sky's the limit, and just you have a crazy idea and just go for it and fund it, and then crush everyone else. And as a non-profit, you have to just think once, twice, three times, and have way more discussions about it to see who does it benefit. Does it benefit one party more than the other? So it's more of a balanced approach compared to a commercial company, for sure. Yeah.
Fair enough. Thinking about that, I know you have a number of important stakeholders, partners. I know you have big sponsors in Heineken and Desperados. And again, in the US, it's not a fair comparison, but companies here brands have often had a tough time with dance music, kind of integrating into the culture and pushing their commercial agendas, that are sometimes very different from what the scene wants. And I know it's different there, but I am curious, how do you make sure that those partners like those are happy and getting what they need, and at the same time, the scene and the industry is served and not kind of overrun by brand advertisers?
Yeah, I think the difference is that the people who work at the brands are more invested in electronic music, so they really know what the scene is about, and they are really part of the scene, most of it, because especially with the Dutch offices of the respective brands,
of course,
most of the people, they have experience in it, so they know exactly what they're talking about. So it becomes a way more natural cooperation than a super commercial company that comes from outside of the scene and just sees what's happening and just sees a lot of young people and think, okay, I want to harvest those young people, and that's when you get this friction. And I believe that in the Netherlands, at least here, that's less so, because the people just know because the electronic music is such a integral part of society that it's not this that there's not this contradiction between it.
No. And besides the money a partnership brings with it, you have to gain from both sides within this collaboration. So if there's only money involved and you don't have any common ground, the partnership won't work.
Yeah.
Basically, that's let's say a basic rule on how, if something's going to work. If it's only money that brings you together, it won't work eventually. It might work for a year or 2 years, but if you want to grow a sustainable relationship with a partner, you have to have more common ground than just giving a bag of money and connecting the brands, because people won't take it.
Totally.
But it takes a lot of time to really create a sustainable relationship with a partner, and we have a big partnership team to create that relationship and to identify both goals and to create that to integrate that into one activation or multiple activations online and event wise. But it's like a complex game,
Sure.
right? But it's a nice one, and we're happy with the way we're doing it, and it succeeds for now. So it's
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I love what you're saying. I think it is about people in those companies needing to understand the cultures that they're marketing to, and having the time, and multi-year partnerships where you get to learn and grow together is so important. And we see so many brands that dip in and out of dance music or in and out of whatever scene, and they don't get the benefit of learning if they don't come back and keep doing it. And you guys are spot on that it's all about the people on both sides of the table that need to be able to think together and work together.
Yeah. You can't just come in, pick a community and then go away. It's the community.
That's right.
You need to nurture that relationship with every part in that community before they really acknowledge your brand and support your brand, right? It's not about So, but I think a lot of at least a few brands nowadays really understand that, and it's more than just about reach or impressions, or it's about.
It's really definitely getting better and better.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I heard you say in another interview, you described ADE as a sort of thermometer for the dance music community and kind of what's to come. So I know you haven't had it yet this year, but I'm curious, from what you're seeing so far, what is the future looking like for dance music for the next year ahead?
Well, you really have to ask us. Sorry, but you really have to ask us afterwards, because the funny thing is, we, like I said, we don't dictate what's going on.
Of course.
So we're not like, and that's different from, for instance, my old job, where we try to push a certain sound or a certain artist. We are like the thermometer, and then, but you only can read the thermometer if you take it out and then read what's what are the degrees. So most of the time afterwards we hear, oh, you listen to that and that sound, that was really that started at ADE, and then we think, okay, yes, this is exactly what we should do. Yeah, so we're just super proud afterwards that we were able to facilitate that.
Sure.
Yeah, but what we do see already is that a lot of industry is coming to Amsterdam. So, and that was being away for 2 years. There was obviously at the beginning of this year was a concern. So, do we still have that momentum? Is everybody coming to ADE, or at least is everybody asking themselves, am I going to Amsterdam in the third week of October? Mm-hmm. And I think we are able to say now that has succeeded, and a lot of industry, a lot of fans are coming. Ticket sales are going well for conference and for all festivals. So from a, let's say, global perspective, we're happy to acknowledge the fact that ADE still got this momentum.
Nice. How many events do you guys plan to attend personally?
Well, the rule.
We-
What we, yeah. Go ahead.
We still have to make our own agenda definite, but yeah, I used to be the festival manager, and then I had about, I don't know, 25 to 30 festival events at day and night, which I was going to shake hands and see everything's
Of course.
well, and then just to show your face and what I said, use your soft skill to show everybody you're doing this together. Nowadays we are more on the boring part of ADE because it's on the one hand showing ADE to politicians and the mayor and stuff like that, and otherwise be there when there's a crisis or anything, right? So it's you don't want to swap with our roles during the
I
event.
bet.
It's much more fun to just go to an event and
No, I'm sure it is.
listen to music. But it is good for us to see what's going on in all the conference venues and all the festival venues, arts and culture, to show around some people what we're doing, and to really get a grip on what you've been, to get it more concrete, because all the things we did till next week are all quite abstract, right? So it's about what we are going to do. I'm really happy when it starts and we can really see the outcome of what we've been doing for more than a year.
Yeah, nice. Well, I'm sorry I'm going to miss it in person this year. I will be there next year, and excited to see how it all comes together. I have a quick lightning round that I want to do before I let you guys go on with your evenings, if you don't mind. And you can both answer, or you can take turns, whatever you prefer. What's your favorite city to travel to?
Yeah, shall I just start? Because
Sure.
Most favorite, I don't know if it's my most favorite, but the most intense experience in a city was for me was Mumbai.
Oh, wow.
Bombay.
I bet.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
we did ADE for 3 or 4 times over there, ADE global sessions. So I traveled a lot to Bombay, and it's just there was so many impressions and so many different stuff than from back here in Europe. So it's
amazing.
For me, Berlin.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, that's a great city. I've spent a little time there. This one I am going to make you both answer. Who's your favorite DJ?
I'd say Laurent Garnier, because of the first song I heard, and he's still a legend, and I'm like, he's such a gentleman, so I'll just stick with him.
I can't call one. No, it's just too difficult.
I will say nobody likes this question.
No, because it's too difficult, because you like so many different artists for so many different reasons. I mean, a movie, for instance, is strangely enough is way easier than a DJ. No, I won't. No.
Okay. Well, we'll give you this one then. What's the last great book you read?
Sorry?
What's the last great book you read?
The last great book I read. Well, the last book I read was Harry Potter with my little hour.
Okay.
It's a great book. It's a great book.
Sure.
Also a difficult one. The last great or the greatest? What is it now? There's a Dutch writer. It's called Thomas Olderheuvelt. He wrote a book called Hex. I really like that.
Nice.
You, Jan? You
Jan?
still there?
Yeah. So I just read this book before the war, and it's what's my favorite podcast maker? The one with the angry voice, for Boekenstein. Who's the other one? You know? Sorry. Oh yeah, it's Rob de Wijk, and it's a book about India and China becoming the new most dominant world power in the world, and it's he stated over there in the book that there's going to be a war really soon, and it's just a month later it happens, and this guy still got a daily podcast
Oh wow.
about the war in Ukraine, and he's a really how can I say this?
Knowledgeable guy. That's
but he's not fun to listen, right? So it's always like I don't want to hear it, but
I got it. Heavy.
So, he's a heavy guy. Yeah, heavy mind.
Nice. So you brought up movies earlier. What movie do you think you've seen the most in your life?
That's Apocalypse Now.
Oh, okay. Good one. Great
Or
movie.
Alien. Aliens or Apocalypse Now. I think it's
nice. Both good movies.
The most?
Wow. Vlodder.
Vlodder, no. I don't tend to really overwatch movies again and again and again. Yeah. But I do like Quentin Tarantino. So all his movies, I really like the conversations, right? The dialogues and the music he uses, and it's called it's one of them, I guess.
Awesome. Well, last question. If I worked for you guys, if I was one of your six, or you added a seventh, what's something I would hear you say over and over?
If you would work, sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, if I worked for ADE, what would I hear you saying over and over?
That's also a good one. What do I say? Let me answer for Jan-Willem.
Maybe you can answer for each other.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have these things I tend to tell over and over. Do I, Jan?
I would say you will say just make it work. Something like that. Yeah, that's basically. You don't want to have too many details. You're like, okay, I just want to make want to make it work.
Yeah, I like that.
Maybe for Jan-Willem, it's hold on a second. Have you thought about this?
Nice. I think that speaks to a good partnership.
Yeah.
And basically, so we're a non-profit foundation, and that means our team is not too worried about making money. Even more specific, they're just spending money, right? So, and I'm the financial one of the two of us. So I always ask people, okay, so this is a great idea, but how are we gonna? How can we? What's this going to cost, and how are we going to make it work on that financially?
Nice.
Because we have a really creative team, and that's good. And you don't want to have them think about limitations, but from our perspective, we do have to think about the limitations, and most of the part these are financial limitations. So, yeah.
Yeah, I should have asked this earlier, but with you guys as co-directors, is there? What's one thing you do to really make that partnership work and make sure you're in sync and complementing each other?
I think it's we have been speed dated to each other. So Meindert was already on the advisory board. I was away. I was working at ADE, but I was away for 3 years, and I at some point. The advisory boards asked Meindert to do this job because he was already knowledgeable, being the marketing director of Spinning Records, and he said, "Okay, I can think about it, but I don't want to do it alone because I don't have the knowledge about, let's say, Amsterdam and the festival and conference itself." So they came up with me. And we've been speed dated, and we did a lunch together, and we said to each other, let's just do this as on a short-term base or on an interim base. we did it for a few months, and I think we complement each other by incident, by coincidence, to be honest. Yeah, it's not it works, and I think the reason why it works is because we're not. We don't need anything to make it work. It just works. And
nice.
We're not people that want to be on the stage. And we're both like, okay, let's just keep on the background, and that means we how can I say this properly? We give each other the space to be a co-director
nice.
Instead of taking the stage, and we're not competing to each other. We're like, okay, just sometimes he's the one on stage, and sometimes I am, and then we both got different roles and different capacities, or what's the right word, competences, and that just works. Yeah. Do you have anything to say, Ryan, on this?
No, absolutely. That's true.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for making time for this. Everybody listening should get out to ADE, if not this year, definitely next year. And we'll be watching and excited to see what happens next.
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was Meindert Kennis and Jan-Willem van Den from ADE on Rebel Radio. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. If you work in dance music, you definitely want to be at ADE. Buy a ticket. Get out there next year, if not this year. I'm sure I'll be there next year, and we can party in Amsterdam together. And most importantly, come back next week for Rebel Radio. Peace.